Despite it having an iPhone chip as its processor, the MacBook Neo is surprisingly powerful as Apple's cheapest laptop. I've compared it to Apple Silicon MacBooks like the M1 Air, but today I'm seeing how well this laptop performs against something Intel-based. This top-spec 2019 i9 MacBook Pro. So this is the base model MacBook Neo. It's a budget-friendly 12.9-inch laptop which I was able to pick up for £499 UK with an education discount from the Apple Store. Interestingly, the Neo runs Apple's A18 chipset, first built for the iPhone 16 Pro released in 2024. There are 6 CPU cores on board, 4 of those are efficiency ones, while the other 2 run at full speed for maximum performance under load. For $500 or $600, people are really considering buying this new MacBook instead of paying the same for an older used MacBook. It's an excellent first taste of Apple Silicon, the SoCs designed to replace Intel chips across the entire MacBook line in the 2020s. But what I've got right here is the very best of the best Intel had to offer in the world of MacBooks, the 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro. This is a top-spec model with the 2.4 GHz Intel Core i9 inside, able to boost all the way up to 5 GHz clock speeds. It's got 32 GB of RAM and a half a terabyte SSD, meaning it would have cost over $3,500 as recently as 2021. These MacBooks were aimed at industry-leading professionals, musicians, visual artists, 3D designers, people who were ready to spend thousands of their hard-earned cash on a tool that would have them set for the next half-decade or more. This was a popular MacBook, by the way. Apple sold a lot of these 2019 i9s, but no one could fully predict what would happen next. Apple Silicon released the next year and somehow blew this thing out of the water on ARM architecture, something previously associated with smartphones. So eventually everyone jumped ship on the 2019 Intel machines, selling as soon as was convenient, basically tanking the value of these things for good. Long story short, I found this one on eBay for £232 last week. That's an over 90% discount on the original price paid just a few years ago. Time to compare it to the Neo then. I'll look at benchmarks in a second, but first let's think about what you're physically getting for your money. 16-inch display on the Pro, 12.9-inch on the Neo. The Pro's is also 20% brighter, peaking at 500 nits. Very similar scissor switch keyboard, both get the job done well, but the MacBook Neo has a cheaper feeling, clicky trackpad. The Pro's trackpad is a larger, more premium, Force Touch model. You also only get the fingerprint reader if you pay extra on the MacBook Neo. So this 2019 16-inch Pro has the Touch Bar. I'm not really qualified to say if that's a good or a bad thing. Some like it and some don't. Having a second display below the main screen does look pretty cool though. Apple stopped making Touch Bar MacBooks after 2023, and there probably won't ever be another. To the sides of the palm rest are the main speakers. This MacBook actually has a 6-speaker surround sound array, which was pretty pioneering for the time. No Windows laptop sounded like this in 2019, and frankly very few of them are up to the same standard even today. Apple's 16-inch laptops really are in a league of their own when it comes to audio quality, and despite being 6.5 years newer with an interesting side-ported layout, the MacBook Neo still doesn't sound quite as good. Let's be real, if you're after a big laptop with space for nice speakers, you probably will be avoiding the Neo anyway. So physically, the 16-inch i9 MacBook Pro is very, very good. It's a premium laptop that used to cost thousands. But in terms of performance, the MacBook Neo has absolutely flipped the script on its head. On its head. In Geekbench 6's single-core CPU test, the Neo hits an almost unbelievable 3,569. This is just 5% slower than Apple's M4 chip, 20% off Apple M5. The 16-inch i9 2019 MacBook Pro trails far behind at 1,384. What can I say really? Apple knows how to push their ARM chips hard. Single-core performance is where you'll notice speed differences the most in day-to-day use when launching apps, scrolling through pages on Excel or the web, or just playing games. So having this kind of gap between the two is a big point of consideration if you're still thinking about going Intel to save money. Bear in mind the efficiency of the A18 Pro Neo as well. It peaks at around 10 watts of power consumption, ridiculously low for a laptop. The 2.4 GHz i9 can eat up to 50 watts under load, so literally 5 times the power needed for a less intense burst of speed. In the multi-core Geekbench 6 benchmark, the Neo scores a very respectable 8,879. This is just above Apple's M1 chip and around 15% behind M2. The 2019 i9 score is 6,484. The Neo is 36% ahead then in multi-core performance, typically useful when you need to open large projects in creative apps or just run lots of software at once. Serious numbers from the Neo. But buyers beware, this is not a sustained test. Under continuous load, this MacBook will start to thermally throttle pretty quickly after the chip heats up. Remember, there aren't any fans on this thing, so it's relying entirely on passive cooling. A warm day is this Mac's worst nightmare. Under 100% load, the Neo will start to throttle incredibly quickly. After just a minute, you could lose 2/3 of your performance because the A18 Pro is hastily slowing down to keep temperatures underneath the 105-degree mark in Celsius. But the i9 MacBook Pro isn't immune to thermal limitations either. It throttles down to about half speed under load. This puts the two laptops on a much more level footing at 100% processor utilization. Let's say you're rendering a video in Final Cut or keeping an AI model going non-stop in the background. I guess the biggest difference is the i9 MacBook will be infinitely louder thanks to the dual fan setup hitting max speed pretty quickly next to the 0 fans inside the Neo. Okay, I've rattled on about CPU numbers for long enough. If you're buying either one of these laptops, you're probably not looking to run them at max load all of the time anyway, since they come at pretty low budget prices. For better sustained performance under load, consider buying an M1 MacBook Pro as it has the best of both worlds, a fan and an Apple Silicon processor. Alright, that's enough talk about processor numbers. In the real world, how else does performance feel different between the two? Because of the far better single-core performance, the Neo feels a million times faster when doing really basic stuff like opening different settings pages and scrolling through the web. Storage is very fast on both of these computers since they both feature PCIe-based SSDs. You only get 256 gigs on the base Neo though, with 512 the minimum on the 16-inch Pro. Both of these laptops have soldered down storage, although the 2019 Pro is a bit more picky about soldered SSD replacements if you really want to go down that road, just because of the T2 chip, which is pretty strict when it comes to regulating the hardware. There's also specific features not built into this older Mac, like hardware-based ray tracing and of course Apple Silicon support. Of course, the dedicated AMD GPUs inside of these 16-inch machines are a good bit ahead of the Neo's SoC, and they can run games well in Windows. But one has to come back to the question of support in the long run. If you buy a 2019 MacBook Pro right now, you won't be able to upgrade this thing beyond macOS Tahoe, which is the latest version as of right now. Apple simply isn't giving Intel MacBooks any more updates, and the MacBook Neo will no doubt be supported until the 2030s at absolute minimum if Apple's reputation for updates is to be trusted. The 2019 i9 MacBook Pro does trade blows with the Neo, with it clearly ahead on storage and graphics capabilities at very least, but the Neo is just built on newer hardware which is snappier and more widely supported from 2026 onwards. I know I'd currently choose the Neo, even if the 2019 16-inch goes for as little as 300 UK pounds or $400 US. Thank you very much for watching. If you like videos about this kind of thing, you might want to get subscribed so you can see more from me most weeks. Alright, cool, yeah, nice one guys. See you next week, yeah? Alright, cheers, bye.